It's time for some 3D updates. We've got things being started, things being discontinued. We've got good news, we've got bad news, we've got interesting news. Okay, so first of all, the Virtual Boy, which was Nintendo's foray into 3D decades ago, is making sort of a comeback. This was largely viewed as a fail by the industry, but still held a place of almost mythic curiosity among fans, and especially among 3D fans. It was a two-tone system, but stereoscopic, and the new iteration of the Virtual Boy will require you to take the screen from the Nintendo Switch and basically put it in a viewer. So it's kind of like any VR viewer out there, like Google Cardboard or other cheaper plastic ones. But what's nice about the simplicity of that is it should be fairly easy to capture and record and then put into all kinds of 3D formats for game walkthroughs and the like on YouTube. So anyway, it'll have some classic games to choose from, and that will be available early next year, 2026. Another upcoming product is the newer version of Spatial Glass, which allows you to put the cover on the screen of your iPhone, in this case, the iPhone 16, and see it in glasses-free 3D. So this one is on Kickstarter right now. And speaking of iPhones and 3D, I said it as soon as Spatial 3D came out from Apple that there's no reason that Android manufacturers can't jump on this bandwagon. Not only because 3D can be implemented theoretically using so many uh, styles of smartphones available today using the same technique Apple is using, namely the primary lens and the wide-angle lens cropped to match. But they could even use the same file format because the frame-packed next-gen format that Apple is using, MVHEVC, which is the frame pack version of H.265 or Ultra HD compatible uh, format, is not proprietary. And it was actually developed years ago, possibly for use on Blu-ray, which sadly never came about. So anyway, it looks like Samsung is finally, after iPhones have done it for 3 versions now, with the 17 coming up now, Samsung is finally gonna jump on, the bandwagon. It's, surprised they waited that long and surprised others haven't done it before them, but they seem to be the first, and even then, we're not sure when, but people have, noticed in the code of the app that these features are being built in for later implementation. Namely, it's a setting called 3D capture that will uh, so far only appears in the Galaxy S25 Ultra. And so far, from what I've read, it will match iPhone specs of 1080p at 30 frames a second, which is a slight upgrade from Blu-ray 3D, which maxes out at 24 frames a second when you're doing full HD. But hopefully, some manufacturer will utilize it to its full potential and make a phone that can record in spatial 3D at 4K in high frame rate, in HDR even. That's all possible. And better yet, even before that, but really, why not both? But even before that, somebody make a phone with matching lenses, because that's a huge problem right now with the one low quality image from the wide-angle crop lens with the good lens. It's just gets worse the closer you get to objects, the mismatch of depth of field, mismatch of quality in low light situations. But yeah, if somebody wants to compete with Apple, that's where your goalpost is. You're playing it safe to just match what Apple's doing right now. And that's what it seems what Samsung is doing, matching their same resolution, same frame rate, and same methodology for getting the 2 lenses that they're using. And maybe it was after the fact, maybe it was based on, the hardware that they already planned on using, because again, this can be implemented if they wanted to on older models. But going forward, that's definitely something to fix. And I'm sure some other 3D fans would tell you that they would prefer a wider interaxial for more powerful depth, and that's great too. But I do understand the reasoning behind having a more modest interaxial for everyday users. Are you tired of traditional ISPs like Comcast Xfinity with contracts and outrageous prices? Switch to Fidium Fiber Optics and start reaping the benefits immediately. Using my own router, I'm paying about $20 a month for my first year, and then switching to regular prices still under $50, all while getting high speeds more than enough for 4K streaming, and upload speeds that cable can't compete with. Click the referral link to receive a promotion when you sign up and see what's available in your area. And now for some sad news, Magix Software, that's Magix. It was a consumer video editing software that used by many 3D fans. Well, they discontinued 3D. Back in 2024, there was a forum post by someone who said they had trouble importing MVC files, which are frame-packed 3D files from some camcorders. Well, now it's been altogether dropped from version 23. I have an older version of it, but I rarely used it. I got it really affordably. I've personally, Cyberlink Power Director is my preferred 3D editing software, a lot more powerful and pretty much the only one now that can burn actual Blu-ray 3D discs. And they likewise, interestingly, looking back, they also had difficulty with MVC shortly before they dropped 3D altogether. The version I was using shortly before 3D was dropped, you could import MVC files, but the anaglyph preview didn't work. It showed it as 2D with a strange anaglyph effect, almost as if it was an auto conversion of the MVC. So yeah, when these weird things start to happen, you know that feature is not being cared for, and it's not long for this world. So yeah, if you want a 3D version of Magix, you'll want an older hard copy. Same goes for Cyberlink Power Director. But you can also edit with Sony Vegas, I believe, still. I personally haven't used that recently. But you can also use DaVinci Resolve. But that probably isn't compatible with MVC files, I believe. It might be SBS only, but don't quote me on that. And another piece of news from Leia is that the LoomPad 2 is slated for obsolescence. The last day for ordering one was on August 18th of this year, 2025, and they said it will be supported until August 17th, 2026. So no future updates or fixes after that. And while there is no new branded LoomPad 3 or something like that, there is Leia's technology that was implemented for the Red Magic tablet. The next piece of news is kind of a mixture of news with a thought. I don't know if it's good news or bad news or interesting, but it's definitely a change in the way things are. It's that we're sort of in an age of 3D re-releases. Um, there've been quite a few 3D re-releases this year, and in theaters. That was popular like uh over a decade ago. That saw a resurgence, and then it quickly became unpopular and was like non-existent for years. And then more recently, that came back and was a thing again. And here and there, but now it seems like it's much more of a thing, and it also seems to be at the expense of Blu-ray. You've got Jaws, that was re-released in 3D again this year, with it's been said that Spielberg himself wants to keep it that way as an event movie, the 3D version. So no real hope at the moment for a Blu-ray release. And that's been true with a number of other 3D films this year. 3D re-releases, which in years past would almost assuredly have been 2D only. Another one coming up this month is, this one is available on Blu-ray, but still it's a 3D re-release coming to theaters. is Select Theaters is Creature from the Black Lagoon, the classic black and white sci-fi. So if you want to see this and other movies that are coming out this summer and into the fall, what better way than with an unlimited membership? So you'll find my promo code below. That'll add an additional free month to your membership at Regal Unlimited, which features, based on your area, 3D, their premium RPX screens, which also feature 3D based on showtime, and in some areas IMAX, which is very similar to RPX, basically another premium large format screen. And probably the biggest 3D re-release is, of course, Avatar 2, or The Way of Water, in preparation for Avatar 3 this December. For the average moviegoer who probably doesn't know that they have the option to watch 3D at home affordably, or just don't care to look into it, this is an event. So, understandably, a lot of people want to go see this. And this was a very wide release. So, from standard theaters with Real D to premium large format. And that's important because if you're going to watch any movie in premium large format 3D, it's this one. Now, of course, that's the best for any movie, any 3D movie especially, as far as the brightness and the clarity. But the key difference here is that Avatar, all the movies now are mastered not only in 3D, but also, unlike many 3D movies, they're mastered in 4K 3D at high frame rate or variable frame rate. And I forgot to add this. This is important though. At the end of the screening, there's a brief clip of Avatar 3 Fire and Ash. And I've heard that different showings get different clips. I don't know how many there are or if the length varies. Mine was about a couple minutes. But also at the beginning, there's an introduction by James Cameron, as is done with many re releases nowadays. Except this is the unique part. It is filmed in 4K 3D at 48 frames per second. So that's a nice treat for 3D fans to get to see a fully specced out, basic live action, non special effects shot. So if you want to see this movie in the best possible way, well, it's too late now because we passed the release. It was 1 week only. Sorry about that. But if anybody wanted to see this in its best possible format, they would need to see it in Dolby Cinema or in IMAX with laser. Now, interestingly, when this movie first came out, it was showing in Dolby Cinema, and it wasn't showing that way this time for the re-release. It was showing in IMAX with laser. So it's interesting that I got to see both. It wasn't a huge difference. They both have great brightness, great clarity, um, uh, great seating. Uh, Dolby definitely has the edge on seating. It has better seating because you can see the whole screen, but the retrofitted IMAX with lasers at least the AMC that I use didn't quite think the seating through, so parts of the screen are covered depending on how many people are sitting in front of you, and it seems to be that way the whole way down the line, that parts of the screen were cut off, but it's not a huge deal. I still saw most of it, and besides the brightness and clarity, that 48 frames per second is just surreal. That just adds so much life to the movie and makes it so much more immersive, especially with 3D. No strobing effects, no lagging that definitely cuts off the 3D effect when there's panning shots. But even shots that don't need it per se, that don't need it to fix the 3D, even when it worked both ways, that 48 frames per second just adds something so special. And I know that's not a universal opinion. There's a lot of people that viscerally dislike it. If you want to see a very uncharitable video of me putting that into words, you can watch my video about it at the time, which mentioned in defense of HFR. My apologies ahead of time if you are an HFR disliker and worded that a little too strongly. I am trying to be more understanding and realize there are different opinions on the subject, and it's okay that you're wrong. It's okay. everybody has different tastes. Some don't like HFR, and some are correct. I mean, we're all 3D fans here, right? But anyway, there was plenty of options for those who wanted to get a premium large format experience, but in 24p, um, such as IMAX with Xenon, which I wouldn't quite recommend because the brightness is less than laser, but there's other premium large format that are limited to 24p, like specifically branded ones like a Regal's RPX, and there's other ones for different theater chains as well. Besides the frame rate, though, I'm not sure if they got the 4K 3D DCP though, or if that was even offered for the 4K version. I don't know. But anyway, speaking of premium large format and 3D movies, a new release, uh, Tron Ares, just came out, and we're not going to talk about that now. We'll save that for another episode. But you're going to want to watch this one. It'll not only touch on the stories of the movies, but also the 3D aspects, including the 3D aspects of Tron Legacy, which preceded this movie and has been subject of contention among 3D fans about what the quality of 3D in that movie actually is. So we're going to look at some hard facts about it, and along with some samples. So join me next time.